All right, welcome in another edition of the Ryan and Goodman podcast. He is Bob Ryan. I'm Jeff Goodman, and we have a great guest for you today. None other than 8-time NBA All-Star Dave Cowens, 2-time NBA champion, MVP in 1973. Dave, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. I want some good stories, not only of you on this podcast, but I'd like a good Robert Ryan story as well of how he was back in the day when he had to cover you guys. So I'm expecting a really good one, a flammable one at some point. You could start off now. Try to think.
He was bipartisan.
He was bipartisan. We know that.
I was caught in the middle of the players and the coach on occasion, as Dave knows. That was for sure. And by the way, let's not bury the lead. And Hall of Famer.
And Hall of Famer, that's right.
Hall of Famer.
That one's just understood.
You know, you got all those stats. Listen, you got all those stats. And yet, Bob, trying to be a first ballot Hall of Famer the first time you're optional, there's not been a whole lot of them. And some of the guys that didn't get it should have gotten it.
Yeah.
If you look, I don't know how they worked it, but.
Well, I'll tell you, the problem with the difference in, like in baseball, everybody knows it's the Baseball Writers Association. There's 500 plus people depending on voting, and it's
right.
Essentially the Basketball Hall of Fame are rotating committees, 3-year terms of 24 people. I've done it twice. And
now, don't you have to have somebody do some paperwork and some background to nominate them?
Yes, it's back. There's a nominating process.
Former Hall of Famer.
I've been a part of that too. And yes, they need nominations officially, and
right.
then it goes to a nominating committee,
right.
and then the nominating committee, gives the names to the voting committee. And now in the strange, I was a part of both of them at the same time the last time I did it, which I thought was kind of, I don't know, I just thought that was a little strange. I was happy to do it, but I think if you nominate and send it on, it shouldn't be the same people. But I was actually in both of them. Anyway, you do need an official nomination. And
right, you do. Now, Johnny Most is in the Hall of Fame or not? Is he a contributor? Is he's not like Chick Hearn, though, right?
Well, they should be on the same level. I
don't think Johnny's.
I don't think he is yet. Chick was a part of of course, Chick was also technically a member of the Lakers organization. He had a title as well. Johnny was never, in the front office. Chick was actually technically in the organization at times.
So he was a bigger homer than Johnny.
Not really. He was his calling card was playing it down the middle at times. He criticized the Lakers. I can promise you that.
Well, then he knew something on management.
If they didn't play to his satisfaction, artistically, they heard about it on the air.
Who's the biggest homer, the biggest TV radio announcer homer you've ever heard, Bob? Is there some?
Johnny set the standard. I mean, and I'll tell you something. And
that's why he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Until Dave showed up. See, I think Dave was a dividing line in Johnny Most's personal history. Johnny Most, when I first came on the scene as a listener, as a freshman at BC in 1964, and I discovered Johnny Most, he was a highly partisan announcer, but he called a really good, solid game, embellished with his Celtic, partisanship. He gave some credit to other players. For example, Jerry West, who we love. After Dave showed up, and that from then point on, I don't know, that team was the good guys and the bad guys and the black hats and the white hats every single night. It was a passion play from that point on, and he never looked back. And he still was a good announcer in terms of calling out the picks and calling out the play, but it gave way to the sheer passion play that he created for the listeners every single night. And I think the turning point was when you showed up, Dave, in 1960.
But like you're saying, he made listening to the game, you knew what was going on because he had that professionalism to him, but he added a hell of a lot of flair.
Oh, he sure did.
I mean, the stuff he did while he was announcing, setting himself on fire and spilling coffee and catching his teeth when they fell out and having a thing in his ear that he couldn't hear anybody.
All true, all part of the Johnny Most lore, no question. And traveling with him I once roomed with him one night during a Euro exhibition season in 1970. Your rookie.
You room with him?
One night we got there's a room shortage and we actually roomed together. And I talked to him at length into the night, and a very interesting man. Very bright, and he's very smart, very bright. Away from the basketball. But boy,
did he ever play for Bear Bryant?
He went to Alabama.
He said he played football for Bear Bryant.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't think he could have played. He also had football college.
He's an awful small guy.
He had a split college career because of the war. I think he was a navigator for a bomber in World War II.
Okay.
And then he came back and after he had been to Brooklyn College, he wound up at Alabama or vice versa.
Oh yeah, he used to tell us about that.
But Bear wasn't the coach then anyway. You never would have played for Bear. Bear was later.
Okay.
Trust me. I think the guy's name was Wallace Wade, but we can look that up.
He was on the touch football team.
Anyway.
Right.
Dave, I got to tell you a story. Jeff, I'm going to tell Dave something. You want to that this is he's a rookie and we're in Elmira, New York, Horseheads, New York, as a matter of fact. They're playing the Buffalo Braves expansion team. And David, we go to lunch. He's not going to remember this. But we go to lunch and we're sitting around talking. We eat lunch and now it's like the middle of the afternoon. And Dave says, well, it's time for dinner. So we never left. Dave had 2 meals. He had the lunch and the dinner before we left that motel. I mean, that restaurant. I just remember that one, Dave.
How was the relationship different? You hear about it all the time, and I'm nearing 50. But the relationship between media and players has changed so much, way more now today than it ever was, because you got social media now. So the players don't need the media at all. They can put out exactly what they want and get their message out that way. But what was it like when you played, Dave? Did you trust the media more than obviously it looks like the current day players trust the media now?
No, you know what happened? It's almost like you say today's players don't need the media, but they want it because they got a brand to sell. They got a website. They got a blah, 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 blah. In my day, we didn't want to have anything to do with the media. We considered them fortunate to lug them along for lunch and stuff like that.
Well, you did a lot of it. Oh, give me a break on that one. You know better than that. You know better than that, Dave Cowens. But it was a.
But we didn't go out and try to. I don't know. It was a different relationship. It was almost like we were equals. Yeah. So you could bust everybody's balls and nobody got a big whatever about anything. It was like, and because they knew a lot about us and we knew some stuff about them. So, what goes on the road stays on the road. And when you develop a close relationship like that, you're in airports and cabs and hotel lobbies and gyms and all that stuff. Well, the best of us comes out.
Right.
The best of us.
You were traveling more together because there weren't as many private planes. All that, and again, social media, I think.
Do beat writers go on the planes today?
No.
So see that we all went, commercial, so we were flying the same plane. Bob would come down the aisle. He's sitting in coach. He'd have about 25 newspapers in his hand. I could read the newspapers.
Remember playing cards? Casino was the big game. Remember?
Hank Finkel. Card laid, the card played.
Card laid, the card played. And Joe DeLore was big on that one, too. And
he didn't budge from that.
Hank Finkel. Let's talk about Hank.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Hank Finkel. He came in the news a little bit last week because Dan Shaughnessy called him up to talk about following Bill Russell and what's going to be like for whoever has to follow.
I read that article. He told me to read it, yeah.
Yeah, what memories did it stir for you about Hank?
Well, I called up Hank and I talked to him about it. I said, how'd you like it? And, he was happy with it. He didn't have any problems. That's the way it was, He said, it was all about this guy who's coming in to try to replace
Brady.
That guy, yeah, Brady.
Yeah, that guy, number 12.
Yeah. He's a pretty good player.
Dave, who was the player?
What'd you say?
Who was the toughest player you ever had to guard? Who was the guy you just, again, you were known as obviously for your toughness, for your versatility, all that, but was there somebody that you just didn't want to go up against, that you were overmatched?
Yeah, I got a long list of those. I'll tell you that right now. you know, when you get Jabbar one night, and then you get Reed, then you get Thurman, then you get, you know, Alcindor, then you get Chamberlain, then you get Bellamy, and then you get, I mean, Walton in there a little bit, then you get
Untold.
Untold, Hayes, and then you go to the power forwards. You got Hayeses and Johnsons and all those guys. So, you know, every night was a battle, and you know, but I just tried to bring whatever I had that night. You know, you give them the best of you. You know, that's what you want to leave them with, the best of you, and that's what I tried to do. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't.
Well, let's tell people that the Dave Cowens of the rookie. Most of the time when he shook hands and when they did at midcourt before they threw that ball up your rookie year, it was the first time you ever saw those guys play because you were not a big fan. You were a doer. You were not a big fan in college. You weren't. Whatever TV was available, you weren't watching. So
there wasn't any TV. How am I going to watch it if I don't have a TV?
All right, you guys. So these guys were boomers, right? I mean,
and there were only like how many games on TV? One a week.
Sunday, right? One a week, Sunday. Yeah.
And usually it was the Celtics.
So there were rumors, right? And I mean, well, I know what you told me at the time. That you would say to me, "Show me what you got." I remember some, you know, because you'd only played them a couple times a year. They were, but I just thought.
Until he got to Cleveland, he was in Chicago.
Yeah, right. That's right. Later on, but when he was in Golden State Tickway, he was really in his prime.
Right.
You know?
Who was the guy with him? Lee? Didn't he have a power
forward? Lee. Power forward.
Like Alvin Adams.
Yeah.
Kind of an Alvin Adams kind of built guy.
Okay, Clyde Lee.
Tennessee or Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah, Vanderbilt. Yeah, absolutely. So
he was a good player.
I mean, when you look back, Dave, when you look back at that, I once did a story in the centers in both the ABA and NBA in 1970-71. You named all those names. And then you could go over to the ABA. And
how about McAdoo? I never liked playing against him.
I know, and I'll tell you a story, Dave.
That guy, he's small. I mean, one of the most unorthodox kind of shooters you would think, you know.
Flipped it, right? He flipped it.
Like the thing is, his approach is he came down like this. Like some guys do, they got a little motion, but they're so good at it, you know, they keep their distance and you can't bother them. But Alex English was a little bit like that.
Okay. And McAdoo didn't need
that kind of delivery.
He didn't need much room to get that shot off either, did he? I mean, he didn't.
But he was so quick, you know, and he boom like that. So when I tried to guard him, he was killing me. They were running picks for him, going, he's supposed to set picks on me. I'm the guy that's supposed to, you know, guarding the guy. And pretty soon they switched it around, and he's coming off and hitting. So I used to tell Silas or even Havlicek, why don't you guard him, and I'll guard Hurd or somebody like that, you know, on this Schluter or somebody, whoever else was out there playing with him. And but you know, was a good player on that team, Bob Kaufman, early on. With
yes, I remember one very interesting evening in Buffalo. You and Bob Kaufman.
Yeah, Kaufman.
Yeah,
I went down to his camp that summer, you know, down at Guilford.
Well, for people who don't know, I'm going to tell the quick abridged version. I'm covering this game, and after the way I covered a game, you know, I had a running sheet. Basket we scored, I'd write so and so, and you know, and I got the shorthand down. So a basket was scored, folks, and I'm right. All of a sudden, I hear this smack of flesh against flesh, and I look up, and there these two guys are standing at the free throw line. The other 8 guys are running to the other end of the court. And Dave is standing there with his arms down, as if to say, "Okay, your turn." He is just
exactly. I told him that.
He just popped Kaufman. Now he puts his arms down like some Russian lumberjack, you know, ready to drink the vodka. And he says, "Okay, your turn." And he pops Dave. And when it was all over, you had an eye patch, and he had like teeth loosened.
Oh yeah, I played against him a few nights later, and I played with his big cut and his shiner at the Celtics game.
I know. I can see you came into the Globe office for something, David, and with that shiner, I can still remember it. I don't know what the hell that was all about. But
he hit me right here and cut me right here, so I had to get. But you know what? The funny thing, I had to go in the locker room because I was bleeding. I don't think they kicked us out of the game.
Oh, that was 1972. That was like, are you kidding? I don't even know what they call a foul. Who get the foul on? You both.
How many games would you get? How many games would you be suspended for that? 10?
Today?
Yeah.
I have to suspend both of them.
Right.
You know, I'll probably, you know, good 10, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
but I mean, this was.
Hey, it's about $25 million, right?
I mean, we don't have enough time for all the Dave Cowens stories. It'll have to be part 2.
Hey,
That's one of my favorites.
Hey, do you remember? I don't know if I dreamt it. I'm pretty sure I did it in Portland. I saved the ball.
The answer's yes.
Huh?
Go ahead. The answer's yes.
I was talking to Johnny Davis the other day because he played for them in guard with Waltman, and I said, I think it was you. I saved the ball down on our end where, our team's bench was on the left of the box of the scoring table when you look at it. And so I saved it, and I jumped over the chairs out of bounds. And then I ran up that aisle between the fans and behind the press and up the other thing and got on the court and was involved in the fast break.
That is the gospel truth, people. And it's like you picture the car and the train and that, like driving along, that picture a car driving alongside railroad tracks and a train next to it.
So you remember that? That happened.
It's what, Dave, I'm the repository of Cowens lore. You're not going to slip any by me. I can tell you right now. You're absolutely right.
I just wanted to verify it. I didn't know if it actually happened.
It did. You didn't dream it. It happened. I'm telling you. It's just one of the many good Cowens stories.
I ran a really wide lane, Bob. I was a real wide one.
Oh God, no. That's one of my absolute favorites. It's true. I want to back up a little bit because Jeff's got a great contemporary understanding of the way the game is evolved today, the way kids are recruited, the way kids are formed, how the process is to developing adolescent ball players. It's his job, and he knows this stuff. Tell me what a summer was like for Dave Cowens in both high school and college. What was a summer like?
Well, in high school, I didn't really work in the summer. I had, paper routes and stuff like that. And I'd work a little bit at a corner grocery store for a while and get enough dollars together to buy, some candy and soda pop and stuff like that. Just wanted to play all the time. But when I got to college, I ended up, working different jobs in the summertime. I'd work at a place called Velveteen, who they print out the sweatshirts and T-shirts, got all the little stuff on it, the paint and everything. So bringing boxes into the area, unloading the trucks, and then sorting stuff in the shelves so that the printers can get it. And then you go and clean the screens that all the ink was on. The only thing they didn't let me do is output. Everything was just supply. I was part of the supply chain.
Okay. Well, back in high school,
was one. And then I did the iron workers. And so I used to get to climb up on buildings, and they helped me. I could do connecting the big beams one to the other.
Oh, yeah.
You get a thing like that, and you whack them in, you put the big bolts in and tighten them up, and then you shimmy up or walk out on these beams, and you might be 8 floors up. Nothing below you, but, more metal. It was pretty cool, experience to meet some of these iron workers who, they go all over the world, over the country, wherever the job is. They're like nomads. They're all over the place.
Yeah. There's a name for them. They got a nickname, I think, for their fraternity.
And then there was manpower. So you get $1.40 an hour to go pick rocks out of a hill, or take carts out of a shopping mall, or wash windows at a nunnery or something.
Now, back in high school, did you have regular pickup games, or was there a regular routine, or did you just go search?
Well, in the summertime, we played baseball and basketball.
Oh, you played baseball.
Ran around in the woods and all that stuff. So we were always up and about.
So
very active.
No AAU ball. No, none of that stuff, Jeff.
Did Florida State recruit you?
No, we used to have the one thing when we played 4. We had a catcher, a pitcher, and 2 fielders.
Yes.
You could only hit it to one side.
Yeah, I grew up that way.
That kind of stuff. So we tried to invent little games,
Yeah, that's funny.
That's what we did.
Dave, did Florida State recruit you based on your high school games completely? And there was no such thing as AAU or summer ball?
Well, I only played my junior and senior year in high school. So the only time probably Durham saw me play, or anybody saw me play, was probably my senior year for the most part, because we had a really good high school team, Newport Catholic, and all boys, about 800 all boys. So it was, and we played in the GCL, which was the Greater Cincinnati League. So we would play with a lot of schools like Moeller and Bacon and Purcell, and Elder was big football, football down there. but good basketball, all boys schools, one of those kind of routines. Plus, we qualified to play all the teams in Kentucky. So we would go play some mountain team, Inez, Kentucky. You know, they were lucky to have 25 kids in the whole school, but they had a basketball team. They won the state championship with 1 year's Mountain Town. And then the same trip, you go over and play an all-black school in Louisville, Dunbar, or something like that. And you go up and you play in your region most of the time. So it was nice to play in Louisville Invitational Tournament. And then we had districts and regionals and stuff like that. But we were 29-3 is what senior year.
How big were you coming out of high school? How big were you when Durham recruited you?
I was 6'6", weighed 190.
And what did you play at? What did you play at for the Celtics?
6'9", 235.
35.
Yeah.
So between my freshman year going into college and graduating 4 years later, I grew 3 inches and gained 45 pounds.
Wow.
And that's what I stayed at for the most.
Was that for you or the weight program that Florida State had?
They didn't know weight program.
Nothing.
Weight program. They didn't do nothing, man. I mean, you had to push yourself to get strong. So I figured it out. There was a guy, we stayed in an athlete, a combined athlete and student body dorm. And so they had a little closet of a weight room in the bottom of it. The football team was there, baseball, swimmers, everybody, plus other students. Then girls were 8 stories right on the other side. And so I went down there to this little weight room. It had a little TV in it, but it had some things coming out of the wall. It had a bench, some dumbbells, no bikes, no cardio equipment, and then some barbells and all that stuff. So there was a guy, a muscle-bound guy in there. So I asked him, I said, what do you think? I like to build up my upper body. My legs are fine. I just like to get a little bit bigger up here. So he kind of taught me how to lift properly, you know, the sort of the strategy of not going too fast and not really heavy and, you know, a lot of repetitions and then kind of build up gradually, that kind of stuff. So it was, that's when I started. And I did it in the summers only. Then when the season started, we just played. But that was, and I did it every summer. So I would go to work, say I'd go to the Iron Workers from, you know, be there at 7 o'clock and work until 4:30. And I'd go to a place called the Fenwick in Cincinnati. And I would work out. They had a nice shower. I had a weight room in there and all that stuff, so I could do that. So I did that 3 days a week after work. And I'd go back to the house where I'm living with mom and dad and brothers and sisters and eat a little something, take a nap, go out, drink a lot of beer, get up, you know, go to bed about 1 o'clock and get up at 6 and go to work again. You
Work
know?
hard, play hard, right?
Well, you know, I mean, it's the hell, you're young, you can do it.
You were the 4th pick of the 1970 draft. What was draft day like then? Draft day, you know, of course, this year all bets are off, but ordinarily draft day be a huge extravaganza. TV, guys invited in, green rooms, you know, shake hands with the commissioner, huggy, hat. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
1970. What was it? What were you doing on draft day, and how'd you find out you were drafted by the Boston Celtics?
Well, you know, they had the ABA thing going on then too.
Yes.
So they had their own draft, and and there was a thing about whether we're going to stay with the Floridians, when they're going to go to the LA Stars. Bob Sharman was coaching at the time, and or do the NBA. And I didn't know anything who was going to draft me in the NBA, but I said, I want to go to the NBA. That's what I've been watching. That's what I know. I want to, you know, I want to go there. So pretty much the decision was made for me that I was going to go with the NBA. And it's funny back then, you know, lawyers couldn't contact somebody on their own that wanted to represent a player, so they had to get an agent that maybe ran a dry cleaning store or something like that. And he'd be the guy that would go out and reach out to the college players to try to get them signed. But all those guys, it was funny, the relationship, all those agents, all their players either went to the ABA or they went to the NBA. Now, is that a coincidence, or were they getting something on the other side
Yeah.
from the NBA itself, you know, which you wasn't supposed to be doing? Anyway, So we had no, let's see, I think I was in the gym, and I was going down to change to go get a workout. I knew the draft and something was going on, and some kid yelled at me, "Hey, you got drafted by the Celtics." I go, "No shit."
I love it. Yeah.
So then I go in. I wanted to go in and talk to Durham. Durham, I think he was in the office, and then we just talked about it a little bit. Then there was some guy at Florida State that was a business professor, and he contacted me, said, "Oh, can I negotiate for you and all that?" I said, "I don't know," but I went up to New York and met this other guy, Bob Blass, and got with him. And one of the best things about going with him, first of all, he only charged 5%, not 10 like plus they threw in an accountant, a guy named Ira Levy, and oh man, he taught me a lot. He was a good guy. You go to New York and you go to his office, have a little something in his office, lunch or whatever, like when they used to do with Red's office. Red had Chinese food or whatever. Oh, yeah. Guys would come in.
Well,
that was nice. And he just taught me about, the whole about keeping good notes and making ledgers and being able to document whatever you spend and that type of a thing. It was nice. I always had a good time going to New York, visiting with him.
How much thought, process did you have going into that draft in terms of knowing who would finish where you might rank? Was there any indication from anybody, Coach Durham getting you on the grapevine, who was, recruited, who was thinking?
I don't remember ever even thinking about it.
About the draft? About being drafted?
No, I don't remember even. I knew it was going to happen, but I had no control of it. So what the hell, just do it. I'm going to go some. I knew I was going to go someplace, but I didn't know where.
We later learned.
Bob will tell you. That was a pretty good draft.
Oh, really? We're going to get to that. I'm glad you brought it up.
Let's talk about the guy.
Out of here without talking about that
class.
Who went ahead of you? Who went ahead of you in that draft?
Well, there was Lanier, Pete, and Tom Janovich. I don't know if in that order, and then myself. Then Sam Lacey, and Nate Archibald and Calvin Murphy were second-round picks.
Wow.
Dan Issel and Charlie Scott went to the ABA, that class. So, it was a pretty good class.
8 Hall of Famers now. Rudy T was number 2. Rudy Tomjanovich. And
it was 3, right?
He's going in as a coach, but he talk about him as a player for people who don't. You remember Rudy T is a player. What do you remember?
Well, I know Rudy T really well. He and I used to run a basketball camp together down in Texas, and he used to come up to my place in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I started one with Rudy T, Doug Collins, and Phil Chenier. I was going to try to do one with Jerry Sloan. My deal was I wanted to have a basketball camp in every NBA city.
Whoa!
Run them, have a front office, and then farm everything out, But that became a heck of a lot of work for me, and I said, I can't do this. So anyway, so I know Rudy from spending time with him in the summer and, socializing. And so I'm biased in my opinion about Rudy, but I mean, he was a hell of a player. He wasn't the kind of guy like Bird that had that handle. That he could do things and was creative along the way. He was a straight line guy, but man, could he fill it up. I mean, he was a hell of a shooter. He could make shots around the rim, didn't matter. He was a hell of a player, but he had range, before big guys like him. He's my size. He had a big guy. He had range. Yeah. And used that bank shot from probably 20 feet away sometimes.
I think he's the longest bank shooter ever.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there were other bank shooters. Sam Jones.
He was good at it.
Oh, he was awesome at it. All right, Dave, a couple of weeks ago.
I didn't see Sam Jones play. They told me he was a bank shot guy.
He was a bank shot guy, but not from that distance. He was a mid-range. He was a 15, 17, 15-foot. Rudy T would, I swear, to be threes, some of them today.
No question.
I mean, it was a bank shot.
Both do it anyway.
Duncan was a bank shooter, but not, same thing, 13, 14, on low box, turnaround bank shoot. Rudy T was amazing in that way. All right, a couple of weeks ago, you and we were talking about this class and of 70 with the 8 Hall of Famers and other good players in there, including Jeff Petrie. We'll get to that point in a minute. But And I said, let's put this team on the floor. Okay, let's put this team of 8 Hall of Famers on the floor. And I said, well, you got Lanier at center, and you could be the power forward. And I thought you were going to jump through the phone and hit me because you don't want any part of being viewed as a forward, do you? Ever?
No, what I tell you, I said, well, Bob Lanier could play power forward too.
Tell us about being a center and what being a center always meant to you.
Then you think about Issel, the skills that he had. And so, it's pretty good group of guys with good skills.
Right.
Hold on one second. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was the question? I
Center position. You want to be, you want to be regarded. I know wanted to be at the time, and you were still as a center. And that position is being devalued today. The 5-man is not important as much in the NBA anymore. And it was vitally important to you to be a center.
Well, I think that they said you were the center because you were in the middle of everything, and a lot of times the ball went inside. You made better. The passes came from the post area, the elbow area, and the top of the key. So. In Red's plays, there's 6 plays.
Yes.
The 1, center handled the ball. The 2, the center set a pick. The 3, the center handled the ball. The 4, the 6, I don't know if the 5 did. And then in our spread offense, the center was out there all the time.
Yeah.
So that's how centers were used differently then than today. There was more of a skill set because they all had hook shots. They all had little jumpers. They had a backup game and stuff like that. Could protect the rim and all, but they could shoot as well. And most of them are pretty good free throw shooters, as a matter of fact, if I recall. No real clunkers like they have today with some of these guys. I wouldn't want to play against these guys today. They're just too damn big and strong. The velocity, now they're going so fast and they're so much bigger and so much big, just well conditioned because they're all, they train like the guy in the Rocky film. You know what I mean? It's like, it's nuts. So, it's a lot of contact, even though they say it's not as rough.
But Dave,
play nowadays.
The 2 things that I think have been lost, and maybe not lost because some guys have them, but number 1 is the skill. And number 2,
well, I don't know that they don't have the skill. I'm not saying they don't have the skill. The problem is that they don't get a chance or are not encouraged to do it because of the way they've made the game played. Is that the coach is telling them, and it's ingrained in their head now since forever, the best shot is a 3-point shot. So your shot is a dispensable kind of a thing. It's okay. We need it sometimes, and most of the time we're hoping you get double teamed, and that's why we want you to get really good, because we really want to double team so we can kick it out to our shooters. Yeah. That's the philosophy of the game. Open it up, and how many off a penetration, how many passes result in a 3 as opposed to a 2 or a layup?
Yeah,
I would say a heavy percentage ends up being a 3-point effort, either the first one out or the second one or the third one. But it becomes a perimeter passing game or skip pass game. But it's always to somebody behind the arc now. So that's why they devalued it. And that's why in the beginning, I didn't like the 3-point play. Very beginning, I said, I don't like this. First of all, I don't never get to shoot them. So why would I, and if you work at something hard enough, you're going to get decent at it. It's not a hard shot. Most of the time you're wide open, so it's not that hard, really, if you develop a groove on it. But it's like, no, why is that 3-point play more important than my hook shot over Jabbar? We're going to have a swimming, diving meet. We're going to grade the shot now. That's not right, and as far as degree of difficulty. So I said, so it's okay. Let's just use it. I understand the deal. You want to keep people in the seats and blah, blah, blah. If it's out of range, you want to, keep the interest of the fan. I get it. Okay. I said, so play the game using the 2 all the way up to the beginning of the 4th period. Just play a 4th period. Put the 3-point play in. That's it.
No.
Because now it's a specialty shot. That's what so that's what it was. I think if they did it today, it'd be good. Because then the rest of the game, they'd be trying to attack the basket because the 2 would be the highest percentage shot. just makes sense. And the numbers are numbers. That's what Ira Levy taught me. Numbers are numbers. Just a game, Cowens.
You remember it came in 79-80, your last year with the Celtics.
Right.
And do you remember how the coach was Fitch and anybody talking about what was the philosophy? Did anybody even talk about how often you should use it or what to do with it? I mean, the first several
if you
years.
just look at the stats, even when I coached, I was in the mid-90s, and all that. It was, you still weren't using it very much all that time. It took 20 years for that thing to sort of get hot.
And I think Daryl Morey is the guy that finally convinced everybody, the way to go with the and put the phrase in vogue that.
You mean that troublemaker? You mean that troublemaker down there in Texas?
That's the one, yeah. And
hey, I tell you what, he showed some moxie, and I was interested to see that once that happened, you never heard anything from him again.
No, you. Oh no,
he was very quiet about everything, and that's smart. That was smart on his part.
I'm sure the commissioner and him had a conversation. I'm sure about that.
Because I mean, if you think about it, if you care about the human race of the marketplace, that's the kind of decision it is, and you gotta play that one in the middle a little bit, depending on the stakes.
You mentioned coaching, and you did coach extensively in the NBA, and also in the a year or so with the women. But my question is this, Dave.
Did the CBA too?
The CBA. Oh yes, that's right.
Worcester,
yes. As a player, the difference between playing and coaching with regard to the winning and losing feeling. As a coach, what was more the greater sensation? Hating to lose or satisfaction in winning?
Not have to. It's kind of not have to talk bad. You're glad you didn't have to talk bad about some of your best players to the press. You have to hold those things in,
All right, I'll buy that.
After the game, you say, "Oh yeah, we tried. We really sucked." Blah blah blah. You can't really say that. You can't run a player down. You got to be real diplomatic. So that's the best part of winning as a coach. But you don't have to do that.
Going to be way more diplomatic these days than back then. Trust me. These guys now are more thin-skinned than ever. When you're going out,
you don't want to run anybody down because it's most of the time, guys. You really know that they're trying hard. But again, you always got to dance around the issue that somebody didn't do this or maybe you didn't. You know what I mean? It's always about the negative. And when you win, it's about the positive.
When you were going out, Larry Bird was a rookie or towards the end of your career.
Right.
How quickly did it take you to realize Larry was going to be Larry in the NBA in that rookie year for him?
Oh, a couple of days.
That's it. You knew right away.
Huh?
Was it something he did?
Well, I wasn't thinking about him like he was a movie star or something, but I was just saying, just as a basketball player, you knew that it was going to just get better. First of all, he liked the game. He played hard. He practiced hard. He trained. He took it serious. You could tell for a guy to be able to achieve what he achieved. But he was, I think he just tried to fit in. But Larry has a leadership mentality. I mean, he approaches a lot of things, not like a Michael Jordan, not like a lot of guys that are on that level, and he had that at a young age, and that was his thing, and so you could see that in him. He was not afraid of, being the guy. So it was good.
But that rookie year,
did he have that swagger from day one that he?
Well, it was a confidence. It was just this is my approach. This is what I bring to the game. And he just lays it out there all the time. And you could tell the guy, was an accomplished player, the way he handled the ball and decisions he made. So you just play with a guy a couple of times. You see how they move without the ball. You see if they're aggressive. You bang them, what they do. But so it only takes you got to play against them a little bit, feel them. And you could tell the quickness, his reaction, that's what he did so good. He was so quick. He really made quick decisions because he was little bit ahead on a lot of things because he was paying attention. He was so into it and involved.
That rookie year, though, he made it. I know he told me he still thought you were the leader and you were the guy who should take the last shot. He did defer. I don't know if it was ever any conversation that he had with anybody, with you or anyone else.
No, the only time I said anything to Larry, I didn't care about all that shit. I play with Havlicek and JoJo and all these. Who cares? Just whatever happens. A long season, a lot. You know what I mean? But the only thing I said to Larry one time is that I would always line up on the free throws when the other team was shooting a free throw. I'd be on with the big guy, all right? And Larry usually would have a guard or somebody. A lot of times they'd put a little guard in on that one spot in between on the free throw attempts, you know? So I'm getting things up. I'm blocking my guy out, ready to get it. And Larry comes from that side of the rim over there on my side. I said, wait a minute. I said, listen, I'm working my ass off for this rebound. You can't just come in here and get one in front of me because you got nobody. So if you want to do it that way, you guard this guy. You always get the big guy, and I'll go over there.
Hey, you mentioned Havlicek, and of course, we're about a year into John's passing. And I am disturbed that I think he's falling a little bit through the cracks of history when they talk about the truly great players. It disturbs me. People are not unaware now how great John Havlicek was. Could you just talk a little bit about, what it was like to be his teammate?
Well, I don't know who's asking.
I mean, people. It's they talk about.
You're in the business.
Top 15. To me, at the end, he was every bit as good as Weston Robertson the last 5 years of all their careers. He was as good. He guarded both of them. They guarded. I'm just saying he's on that level. To me, when you're going to talk Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, you got to talk John Havlicek, and people don't. That's all I'm saying.
Well, let me ask you a question. So describe how John Havlicek scored all those points. Tell me what he did to be able to score all those points.
Well, he did it. He moved without the ball. That's one thing he did.
Oh, but they weren't all layups.
Oh my God, no! Oh, of course not. He would have been a 3-point shooter today, easy. He had that range, and he would have been a devastating. Oh, and he ran the floor better than most people. Ran it relentlessly, and he worked to get open. And he came off picks. He came off. He could get shots off anytime he needed to.
But you think of his style. He was he was a shot maker.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so he could be off balance. He'd be leaning in and be doing something. He had that kind of game too. He didn't have to just be all set up. Like for me, if I was set up nice and fundamental, I had a good chance of making it. Mm-hmm. You had me drifting and all that stuff, I probably wouldn't be that good. John wasn't like that. He could make that adjustment in the air. Really good shooters can score.
Remember that shot in triple overtime that tied the game? That leaning banker. It was like a Nolan Ryan fastball off the glass. Anyway, it was but my God, this is exactly what you're talking about.
But to be able to touch it up like that, like he touched it up.
How about when he used to bank down the middle, coming down on he'd bank. I never saw anybody as frequently as John did bank down the middle from about 12, 15 feet. 13, right? Inside
the time in that double overtime we played in Boston against Milwaukee, made that teardropper over Jabbar. Jabbar really challenged it. He went just at the last second, threw it up high. And then he had the one, he came down on a break and hit the rim. It came back at him and he put it back in.
Exactly. You're 100%. Yeah.
So he was one of those kind of guys that he was, you had to pay attention to him all the time. Because like you say, he moved without the ball. What was a good matchup was him and Bradley. It was always a good matchup because they were kind of the same ilk, just Bradley wasn't as good as John.
Well, there's a story behind it. The story goes with that one that you may or may not know. But John told me this story that Tommy Heinsohn one day, in the height of that, said to him, John, the next time Bradley puts two hands on your hips, I want you to take the ball and smash it in his face. And John said, but Hawk, as you know, that was Tommy's nickname on the team. But Hawk doesn't bother me at all. I love that story. But I know what a mutual admirer. Bill Bradley really utterly, completely respected John. Just loved playing against John.
Oh yeah, I mean, there were two peas in a pod the way they played the game. You know, I think John had. Bill never really was a good driver with the ball. Bill was a good setup. He was more of a Rick Mount type of a player.
Okay, yeah,
in terms of scoring, how he used to score.
Dave, you won so much in your career. You had that 1 year. Didn't you guys have that 1 year, 70, 77, 78, when you guys weren't very good before you kind of got Larry in there? What was that like for you?
Who was the coach? I can't remember.
That's right. You coached.
It was the year before.
That was the year before you took over. What was that whole year and a half like, or 2 years? You know, you're losing, then you take over your player coach, and you don't see any of that anymore. Player coach. It couldn't have been easy.
I was the last one to do it.
Is that right?
I don't think anyone's done it since. There's a good reason for that.
You ruined it for everybody.
And nobody wants that job. You don't want that job. Believe me, it makes no sense.
Hey, did you get paid a lot more for doing both?
No, I did both. I got no raise. I ain't no bonus or anything.
That's a bad agent. Dave, you needed a better agent.
I took it on the chin.
Yeah.
For the good of, you know, what Reddy used to say, it's all about family and all that stuff.
Yeah, you fell for it.
Well,
Hey,
I believed in it.
I was asking you earlier about where you were on draft day, but there's another story I want to hear. How'd you find out you were the MVP in the 1972-73 season?
After some game, they brought a ball into the locker room, and I think that's when they told everybody, they sort of made that announcement in the locker room. And so they had a basketball, and they put some tape on it, said MVP, and I
very formal, huh?
That was it.
I love it.
What did it mean? Did it mean a ton to you like it does to these guys now? Or it was just, all right, move on?
No, it meant a lot to me because the press had nothing to do with it. It was all about the players and the coaches voting on that one. So
hey, watch it.
No, that's the way. That's the meaningful one. When your peers vote for you, that's a big thing.
Did you watch episode 1 of The Last Dance? And what was your impression?
I liked it. You know, I got so much respect for guys that can play to that level on a consistent basis and just do it. Take the challenge night in and night out, and basically overachieve, you know, for the most part all the time. So my hat's off to him. I'm saying, but Jesus, how about that team though? I mean, hell, they could have won a championship without Jordan, maybe. I mean, they were pretty damn good.
Well, they almost did, you know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, so
they came real close that year and against the Knicks, and it was one bad call by Hugh Hollins that took a game away from the Bulls in Madison Square Garden, or else they may have gone on to beat. They would have played the Rockets that year in the '94. They won 55 games without him that year. And
yeah, see,
his best coaching job.
Like that one bad call that Madden made against the Knicks in '73 when we were in the playoffs with
just one.
And went Easter Sunday, and it was a double overtime game down there. And they called Nelly. We had the lead, and they called Nelly. We're taken out of bounds with the lead, and Nelly takes 1.5 steps up the sideline, and Madden calls him for a violation, having a problem getting the ball in because Frazier was putting some pressure on. Yeah. And then they get the ball, then they score overtime, we lose. Oh, so yeah. I can feel his pain right there. I know he's talking about.
Hey, you mentioned Don Nelson. People today, Don Nelson led the league in field goal percentage at age 35 in 1974-75, and 90% of them, as you well know, were 15-foot jump shots, foul line jump shots, 17-foot. Just, you know, Nelly it's a player and as a character. How about Nelly?
Well, you know, Nelly said that when he grew up, he played on a farm. He lived on a farm in Iowa, right? And he said where the basket was, it was right in the area where the chickens roamed around. He said, so I always had that crap on my hands, so that's why I used to stick them, because it was so familiar.
I did not. That's a story I didn't know from Nelly. But folks, what people Dave's alluding to, he was notorious. He had this substance that he would hide.
Stick 'em. It's called stick 'em.
His wristband or under his shorts, And they once did a pictorial essay in the New York Post, I think. Nelly then had to find a new hiding place for the Stickum, but the Stickum enabled him to have the greatest up fake in the league, right?
Oh yeah, he had big hands anyway. He had that wide span, and he'd always get them with the. He really had a good one like that. The whole thing was good, and he'd get guys going for that all the time.
I remember I saw a game.
His whole thing was kind of like that. That's how he shot.
You could see
his jump shots.
You would legitimately see him put the Stickum on before games.
No, it was a consistent thing. So what they do is he would put the gauze around his wrist and put one thing of tape. Then he put some goop on it. Then he put another couple pieces, and so it would just ooze through the holes of the tape. The tape's porous, so it would just be like and so it would get kind of brown looking, pick up dirt and stuff like that. So then he had one. We wore the short shorts, so he had one. He had tape, the whole thing under the edge of his trunks, and he did the same thing so he could go. And if you see him all the time, he's going like this. He's got his trunks, and then somebody ratted on him because it was illegal. So then he put it on the side of his shoe, the instep of his shoe, so he could do, But then he had to bend way down. He didn't like that.
Yeah.
Your boy Paul Silas got to it. He was using it too a lot.
I didn't know, yeah.
Oh yeah. Paul's always going like that. What do you think he's doing?
I saw Nelly in 1969 finals against the Lakers. He did an up fake at the end of a break, and whoever the Laker was went sailing right off into the court, right literally into the first row. The other one, you may remember this one night. He did the up fake to Dwight Davis of the Rockets, and he slapped the backboard.
Who did, Dwight Davis?
Yeah, Dwight Davis slapped the backboard. When he came down, Nelly laid the ball in. Oh yeah, there's nobody. You can't even. How can anybody today relate to him? Because there's nothing like that. There's nothing.
No, he. I always said, the game's going in 78 RPMs, and he's at 45.
I know one thing.
He just fit in the grooves. Everybody run past, and all of a sudden, here comes Nelly right there, boom, wide open.
Hey, trailer on the break. You were a trailer on the break too.
Yeah.
That art, that's gone. That's
an art.
The organized.
That's nice because then you can pass. You're like a one dribble to the basket. It's a nice place to get it.
Nelly. Here's the thing about Nelly too. When the lead would go like from 10 to 2, we called timeout. That was a time for run a 14 play for Nelly. I can remember you guys run, and then it came up. Remember Tommy came up with the 15 with a triple pick. Remember that play?
I don't.
Yeah, it was a triple pick. You were to come down. You were the last one to come down from the top.
Oh, okay, I get it.
You set up for the one.
Oh, I dribbled the ball down. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, and then you set the pick. It was a triple
pick. He'd go in
and
come off.
And I can still see a guy named what was his name? Don Ford for the Lakers, and flailing trying to get through one night. It was like a pathetic thing. It was overwhelmed by 3 guys. I mean, it was just such a different game. The nature.
So go right from what you just described of on the trailer. You come down. You get the ball at 18 feet, and you have the luxury of if you're open, or you give them the Nelly thing and you drive, and then you try to make a play. What would happen today? The coach would say, "Don't take that shot. Stop at the 3-point line and take it."
Oh yeah.
So for that extra 5 feet or 4 or 5 feet difference, they're going to go to that stat. And so that's, you say what's changed? That right there. So that would take away any kind of going to the basket by a big guy. Another skill, that if you did it all the time, these guys today, as I said before, they'd be able to do all those things really well, but they'd be encouraged to do it. They would practice it in game situation, one thing, but they've never been able to do that because
which was a double exchange of either guard or forward and at the center to top. And then later on, you had the variation, the 1R, reverse, right? And then it was ultimately the 1 New York, the lob to you,
right.
And, but it was all set up in the first quarter, setting things up so you could run this counterplay in the fourth quarter.
That was the most.
Does anybody do anything like this anymore?
That was like an equal opportunity play because, you always had, you had a 1 play But then if you wanted to use John in it as opposed to Don Chaney and JoJo White, then you would say, okay, we'll put John in there for Chaney and put him over. So you could do the whole,
Right.
The 1R, the 1C, the 1 New York, the 1AR, the 1C, all these different combinations.
Seriously, yeah. But I mean, I got to learn all this watching you guys play. But setting people up for the fourth quarter, I just love it. And when guys.
There was a lot of moving without the ball to get a setup for a particular shot. Yeah,
I don't know. It was.
It was just different. And then the thing that I miss the most, Bob, is the contrast between the coaches and their systems. Like, you had John Wooden had the UCLA thing. You had Dick Motta had the
Bulls.
Had the hawk play and his whole set on the guy getting the ball at the elbow. And then, then you had some of that mid guys had it in the middle. And so, everybody would come up with sort of different systems. Now it's all middle pick and roll. It's just pick and roll after pick and roll. That's what it is. I mean, and that's what everybody does. Yeah. So they want to get isolation. They want to get the floor spread. Makes it easy. Like Archie Clark said, man, I wish I had seen that much court ahead of me when I had it. I've been making a living at the basket, But when we played, it was all scrunched in. So it really discouraged dribbling more than, passing was the thing.
You mentioned those Bulls teams.
One thing leads to the other. The three-pointer did all that. It spread it out, more dribbling, more jumping in the air, more turning around, more all this stuff. And so it gets acrobatic, and I think the fans like it. So it's been good in terms of fan interest.
Yeah.
I think the bettors can bet on it now. It's getting consistent so that, that keeps their interest.
Okay.
It makes a different thing. I mean, without betting, I don't think sports would be all that popular, to tell you the truth. Wow. That's my opinion. I mean, there's guys that love the competition, but most people who live on the East Coast don't care about Oregon playing Washington unless they get some money on the game. So that just keeps everything, churning and, works on itself. But I know if people, bartenders, everybody, there's a lot of people like to wager, in social settings, just the way it is.
Oh yeah. No,
before we let you go,
I mean, that's a big industry. Look at Vegas right now.
Oh yeah.
What's going on? It's terrible.
Yeah. Give us your favorite Red story before we let you go. You guys mentioned the Chinese food that was always in his office. I guess when
he had the luncheons. He always had the luncheons, and he'd have Sam Kane in there or Jack Satter or somebody like that. They'd be in there, and he's holding court, smoking a cigar with his letter openers and some deli sandwiches and coleslaw and pickles, and him drinking probably a Diet Coke. What did he drink?
Yeah, he wasn't a drinker.
No, just Coca-Cola with Pepsi-Cola or something.
Yeah.
No coffee ever. Never ate eggs. He said, I never had an egg. I go, well, Chinese food got a lot of eggs in it. He didn't like a soft-boiled egg or a fried egg or a scrambled egg, But he was nice. When Debbie was pregnant and she went to one of the practices, he'd bring her over some lox and bagels and stuff like that. It was good that way. That's how Red was. He was always thinking.
The story supposedly that he went to scout you playing your senior year at Dayton, and he, after about the first half, he walks out and looking like he was unhappy, trying to con everybody into thinking that he wasn't interested in you. I don't know if you heard that story, but that was one.
Oh yeah, I've heard it a lot, Bob. I don't think it was true. I don't think that affected anybody's opinion.
But
I know that's what Cousy said. Cousy had number 5 pick.
Oh God!
And he was at Cincinnati, so that's my hometown.
Yeah.
He was.
To
tell you a story about Red. You asked about Red, and so when my father had heard that the doctor stopped working on him, he said, "Jack, we've been keeping you alive long. We can't do no more for you." So I thought Red was in the hospital at the time himself. I think Red's a couple of years older than my dad, and so I called Red and I said, "How you doing?" And blah, blah, blah. And I said, Red, how come? I said, what's wrong? He said, everything. So I asked him to call my dad because they had a nice relationship, and I told him the news. And Red, I gave him the number, and Red called my father they talked about, getting close to dying and all that stuff. So that's what I remember about Red.
That's nice.
Other than that, he didn't pay me very well, but other than that, I guess I didn't ask him right. I don't.
What was your contract when you first got in the league? Do you remember what you made a year?
So I made about $15 a minute playing.
I don't know how many minutes you played, so add that up for me. What was it per year?
90. It was 90 grand.
Which was a ton of money back then, right? 90 grand?
I mean, it was
for you.
Yeah, I'm 21 years old. That's pretty good. Yeah, you're right.
And your last contract? You remember what it was?
It was north of there.
I hope it was north of
It
there.
took a while. I mean,
You did win an MVP.
Everybody signed these like 3-year deals, in the Pippen thing. They were talking about how he signed such a long-term deal and how he was all upset at the end. But I guess Reinsdorf was one of those guys that said, that's it. This is my rule, hard and fast rule. The deal's a deal's a deal. And he didn't want to open that gate, renegotiations.
Red would have said the same thing, don't you think?
Huh?
That's the way Red thought. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, yeah, he'd renegotiate if he wanted to, not if you wanted to, but if he wanted to.
Right.
If he wanted to add another year on your contract at a good price, he'd say, yeah, let's talk about something.
I know the one that he hated incentives. He didn't want to hear about it. If you make the All-Star team, you get. He said, for what I'm paying you, you better make the All-Star team, right?
Oh, that's right. That's exactly.
All right. Well, listen, we really appreciate you jumping on, Dave. This was fun. This was a blast for me, and I know for you guys, I can listen to this all day and the story. So we'll do it again. Be safe. Where are you now? Are you home in where? Where are you?
We live in Maine.
You
Yep.
do? Okay.
Yeah, Bob's been up here.
I have.
Well,
Very nice. Right on the lake.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's worked up today. It's worked up big time.
yeah. Well, listen.
But listen, everybody, be well. All right. Nice to talk to you all.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Dave.
David.
Enjoyed it.
Take care. Thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.